So Tanum, I mean, we've got this current, and I'm not trying to understate or minimize, but to say it in summary, we're in this current climate with loads of things going on. None of us expected any of this. Well, maybe some of it we expected.
Right.
But I guess, my question for you would be, I know you've got a lot of different things going on, and maybe you can start there and share a little bit about what you do and so forth. But then I'd love to sort of transition and hear either what you're seeing organizations do to, try to thrive or thrive in this current climate, and or, how you've been helping people, pivot in this current climate. So I'm going to hand over to you and would love to hear more about what you're doing.
So that is such a complex kind of answering question that I'll do my best to be as succinct as possible. So Tanum Davis Bohen, I actually currently have two hats. On one, I have a consultancy firm that focuses on working with leadership teams and leaders to build culture around inclusion, to do organizational design, organizational structure, as well as change management. So really, whenever you're looking for kind of making a change within your organization, specifically from a leadership perspective, and then trying to figure out how to include people, that's what I do. The second kind of component is I'm the Chief Strategy and Operation Officers for an organization, which is a media platform called The Big We. And our goal aspirationally is to shift the culture of the economy through content, community, and capital. So you can go take a look on our website and figure it out at bigwe.com, but it is very, very kind of loaded. To your question of what am I seeing? So in both of those capacities, it's this idea of in the current kind of environment, there's a lot happening and there's a lot more of awareness and recognition of fact that there are disparities, there are systematic kind of challenges that we all have. So when I think about my corporate clients and people that are in the world trying to do good, a lot of the questions that are presented or the challenges are, I don't know what to do. I kind of feel paralyzed. I want to do something, I just don't know what. And in my mind, I think that a lot of focus has been placed on diversity, inclusion, equity, and justice initiatives over the past couple of years. And I think that we were just talking about, I believe that the old model that existed probably even before as recent as 5 or 6 months ago, because this current climate is not only COVID, but it's also kind of the racial injustice conversations that are currently happening. Prior to that date, there were initiatives that I think I kind of equated to like Y2K. It was this thing that after a while, this whole industry kind of created around this thing that we're trying to solve for. And I think that where people started with good intentions of diversity and inclusion being something that is the right thing to do, it then became the thing to do, which then made it a buzzword, which then made it a kind of a talking point. And I'm not saying that there's not good work. There's some amazing work being done by people, officers, and organizations, but more times than not, there are a lot of initiatives that seem to be done. And then it's like, okay, fine, what happened or what changed? And oftentimes it's not really that much change. We just happen to have the language and we have a statistic to point to. So when I talk to a lot of leaders, they keep saying like, we want to do something, but we don't know. So a lot of those conversations are what's coming up. And it's just then coupled by the fact that there's a pandemic that's ongoing and raging. And if you have teams that are just US based, and I have clients who have teams that are globally based, depending upon where that is, they're trying to figure out how to balance that and how to have that conversation. In the work that I'm doing, so that's the helping part. So I hope that I'm helping them with conversations, but mostly what I try to do is I try to be a witness and I try to allow them enough space to have an authentic conversation, because it is okay to say, I don't know. And I encourage you, please start with I don't know, because there's a lot of things you probably don't know about, but find the people who do know, find people who can be there to kind of be a sounding board, who make you feel safe and kind of create the security around the conversation so that you can talk about what you're trying to do, and then find right people like your organization who can kind of help you make those changes and make a difference. With the Big We, what we're looking to do is we're helping to kind of create narratives and change the way that people talk about this so that there is more openness, but more so inclusion, because we're called the Big We for a reason. We is all of us, and we're looking to have all of us kind of involved and engaged.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, and I think, to your point, we were talking earlier about, um, again, it may be the best intentions, but it's sort of like sometimes DEI becomes sort of like a cardboard cutout. If you push a little bit, it just sort of collapses. There's not a lot of substance behind it, and it's such a great opportunity to really elevate. And I don't mean that lightly, but to really elevate the topic and be super meaningful about it and make and affect change.
Before, I used to always say I don't like the word diversity because it didn't really mean anything to me. I now think that I have the perspective, the language, and I think I actually I'm being given the permission to say, well, it doesn't actually work for me because as somebody who is diverse, I'm a Black female. Yeah, clearly it's noted. But you calling me diverse doesn't make me feel like I'm part of something, because diversity can mean a lot of things. I always used to prefer inclusion because I always talk about inclusion and opportunity. So it's one, having the people that have diverse perspectives in a room, but then once they are in that room, they have to not only be heard, but also seen. So it takes a lot of work and energy. And quite frankly, it doesn't align with a lot of business objectives to say, wait a minute, let me pause and really try to understand how these people feel. I just recently started talking about, my experiences code switching and microaggressions. And I will honestly say before May, I did not feel comfortable saying that out loud because I always tried to hide and say, well, I'm in the room. Thank you. You've given me the opportunity to do something. Let me not rock the boat too much. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I have no problem speaking my mind. I'm pretty outspoken. But as I reflect back on my career of 23 years, I know that there were definitely times when I just said, you know what, that's not worth it. I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to say anything. And the challenge is that there are so few people who are not what is considered normally privileged within, organizations and teams that have the ability as well as a seat at the table in order to kind of have those conversations. And then when you get to the table, sometimes you don't really feel comfortable doing that. And so I am just so excited about the time for people who might be I call it the global majority. I don't call it diverse. I don't talk about underrepresented. I say that, it's global majority. There are a lot of people who are of the othered type of population around the world. And so I think I love the fact that there are times, and it's young people too, who are saying, wait a minute, I'm different. And I would like somebody to listen to me and stand up. And so I encourage leaders and teams to say, why don't you give a little space, be a little uncomfortable, let people have some conversations, and you might be enlightened and think about things that you never thought were important to you, that might actually help impact your organization and make your team more robust and a better team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, I think we've all had those, we all have those memories of times where we were invited to the table and we didn't feel comfortable speaking up. So I love what you just said about, let's shift the conversation more to inclusion versus diversity. Because to your point, we're all diverse.